Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our panel discussion, The Evolution of a Multi-Attribute Sustainability Label with ASSA ABLOY. I'm excited to introduce our panelists in a few moments, but first, just going to run through some quick housekeeping notes. You can ask questions at any time in the questions pane. We will be collecting the questions and they'll be answered towards the end of our panel as time allows. If we do not get to your question, we will follow up via email. Throughout the session, there will also be a couple of poll questions. Please answer and make sure you click submit so that your answer is recorded, and we will review the poll results as a group. We appreciate your participation in the polls. Please do note that the chat is disabled, but we will be able to see all of the questions that you're putting in there. And then another note, if you need to leave early, if you're joining late, if you registered for the webinar, all registrants will receive the recording within 24 hours. All right, so now I would like to give our panelists the opportunity to introduce themselves and provide some background. I will be moderating our conversation today, so I'll also introduce myself. I'm Katie Feenan. I'm an account executive with Green Circle Certified. I've been with our company for over 4 years. In my previous role here, I was a certification analyst, helping our clients certify their claims for products and operations. And now I will turn over the floor to our panelists. So without further ado, Erin, please start us off.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Erin Spadavecchia, Manager for Sustainable Building Solutions at ASSA ABLOY, headquartered in the Americas in New Haven, Connecticut. I'm based out of the Hudson Valley, New York area. I've been with ASSA ABLOY for 10 years in previous roles as well as an architectural consultant. Thanks for joining us. I'll pass it over to Dan.
Good morning, I'm Dan Glover. I'm product manager with ASSA ABLOY Door Group. I've been with ASSA 20 years, and prior to that, I spent 20 years in automotive. Basically, my role in sustainability for about the last 15 years is supporting that concept to customers. We take our products from concept all the way through customer, and then supporting internal and external cross-functional teams and customers and stakeholders, working with Green Circle and get our third-party verification and certification so that our customers have a higher confidence level and can support their needs for sustainability requirements, as well as any other credits they might want to get. And it gives us a marketing and competitive advantage. So it's a win-win. So glad to be here.
Good morning, I'm Marty Similuk. I'm Regional Architectural Manager for ASSA ABLOY in the Mid-Atlantic, and I've been with ASSA ABLOY since 2012. After a 30-year career in the door and hardware business, I lead a team of architectural consultants that work with architects on door and hardware specifications, and we work with probably on the order of 500 architects just in the Mid-Atlantic, writing specifications for primarily Division 8 and Division 28 access control. I'm one of the many ASSA ABLOY company champions for sustainability in the nation. And our goal is to promote sustainable building solutions products with my particular focus, the architectural community.
Great. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. I'm Tad Radzinski, and I'm one of the co-founders and owners and partner of Green Circle Certified. Very excited to be here today. This is a great story we're going to tell about how we've definitely put together the Certified Sustainability Facts label and the journey that ASSA ABLOY has taken, to basically be recognized for all the amazing sustainability things we're doing as a company. And looking forward to talking with you all and sharing our experience today.
Thanks, everyone. So to set the stage, since this discussion is titled The Evolution of a Multi-Attribute Label, I'd like to pass it over back to Tad just to talk about how this multi-attribute certified sustainability facts label came to be.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this. What you see on the screen right now is definitely an evolution. We started this company back in 2009, focused on single attributes. We were mainly zooming in on recycled content initially, and different certifications, and then we advanced into our sustainable manufacturing practices certification, where we started looking at how companies were basically producing their products and reducing energy, water, waste. And then we've evolved over time into many other certifications like our LCA optimized and our zero waste to landfill and everything else. And all along we knew when we started this company that single attributes are really good, right? We want to definitely be able to certify different things for companies in terms of the great work they're doing, maybe on recycled content for a product or different things like that. But we knew that for true sustainability, going to what we call a multi-attribute approach and looking at different attributes across a whole product was really important. And we had the vision for what was at one point called our certified environmental facts label. Basically, we rolled that out, and it looks very similar to what you see here, except this one's aligned now with the common materials framework, which you're going to hear more about. But when we did that label, we did not have the social and health and equity aspect of it. We were mainly zooming in on the environmental attributes, looking at like recycled content, carbon footprint reduction, and whether a product had an EPD and that kind of thing. And all along, we felt that this label would be a great way. Number one, it looks like a nutrition label that the average human is used to seeing. And number two, it's a great way to be very transparent for a company to disclose the different things they're doing in terms of their actions around their products and their actions around their operations. So when we put this all together, we did collaborate with a lot of different organizations. As you're going to see here, you'll notice that there's green attributes on here. When we created this label, first of all, the architect and design community loved it because they're like, wow, we can see everything in one spot. It's super transparent. Then when we started communicating with the United States Green Building Council, when we developed this label, they asked us to be able to call out what attributes definitely contributed to earning LEED points. So we did that, and that makes it a lot easier for the Green Business Certification Incorporated, the reviewers for LEED projects actually identify how a company is meeting the different LEED requirements. Very quick, very easy. And the other thing that we wanted this to be is the ability for a company to do continuous improvement. And I actually remember the first time we certified one of the ASSA ABLOY products to this label for certified environmental facts. The plant managers at that facility were like, oh my gosh, now we are on the hook because we have kind of set a baseline and we're going to have to show continuous improvement to earn this label again in the future. So this was always our goal, to drive continuous improvement, provide total transparency, and the fact that it's third-party verified and certified is huge because the users of this label, whether it's the architect, the designer, GBCI, USGBC, whoever it's going to be, government agencies, they can trust that the company is telling the truth because we have our reputation on the line at Green Circle to make sure we're doing this, and we are an ANAB accredited organization, so we've been third-party accredited as well. So this label is fully been reviewed by ANAB also. So I'm excited about where this has come to go from back in the day when we just did recycled content to now to be able to highlight leaders in industry that are doing amazing things, not only with their products, but in their operations. So with that, I'll turn it back to the team here.
Yeah, thank you, Ted. I did want to continue speaking about the multi-attribute versus the single attribute. I know you said that a multi-attribute approach is something that is critical for products to have when talking about certification. So I'm curious if you could speak to that a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. And we realized early on that any single attribute is a really good thing. There's no doubt. If someone's doing recycled content, or in this case, we're showing the certified energy savings here for the door, those are awesome, right? It's great. But in reality, if we really want to be truly sustainable as for a product and in operations, we should be taking this multi-attribute approach where we're not only looking at what's going on with the energy savings, but we should be understanding what's going on with, human health. We should be understanding what's going on with circularity. We should be understanding what's going on within the supply chain and how we're managing human rights as an organization. Like all of that stuff is really important. And if you even think about it, like EPA right now has their Eco-Logo program, and they have decided as an organization, they definitely recognize single attributes because we are fully recognized for our single attributes. And they also are really driving towards that multi-attribute approach. And with LEED v5 coming out, we're going to see that even more with the new credits that are being developed in LEED v5 around product optimization and everything else. And that multi-attribute approach is definitely really critical as we think about this. And I've always said that, you know, you can look at the fact that a product has recycled content, but if you don't know the other elements of it, like what is the actual embodied carbon of it, or what is carbon footprint, you know, does it actually have a health product declaration that's been third-party verified? You don't know all that, and being able to disclose that is really critical. In fact, I was just at a conference this week speaking, and there was some folks there from Gensler talking about their approach in terms of how they look at their Gensler product standard that they've developed. And if you really look at that standard, it's very multi-attribute for them, and they're driving hard on that as well. So again, I'm not going to discourage anybody from getting a single attribute because many companies start out with a single attribute, and that's very early in your journey. You might say, hey, we're just starting out, we're going to get recycled content, we're going to get certified energy savings, whatever. And then you evolve over time to eventually get to the point where you can have a label like the Certified Sustainability Facts label. That's huge. And it's you know, again, with that total transparency and being able to disclose this, the people who are using this label get a lot out of it. And so again, single attributes, as you can see, we certify a bunch of them in the Certified Sustainability Facts label. They're great, but being able to tell your total sustainability story on the product is definitely the direction we think is critical here. And again, driving that continuous improvement is going to be how we optimize and how we all meet the big hurdles we got in this world right now. You know, there's a lot of challenges in this world in terms of where we're going, not only with climate, but everything that's going on in supply chains. We got, you know, concerns about exposure to different chemicals. You know, we really have to figure out circularity as we go forward here if we're going to, you know, really reduce our impacts on, you know, the planet and you know, our communities. So this is where we're going. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, thank you for that background. This leads nicely into our next slide, what Tad was describing, or rather the next slide. I wanted to lead into the, turn it back over to the ASSA ABLOY team to talk about their journey. I know that they started out with some single attribute certifications back in 2014, and this really shows the journey that they've taken to get to this really built out multi-attribute label.
Sure. Thanks, Katie. Yeah, just looking at where we started and where we are now, you'll see on the left side of this screen our first certifications for certified energy savings. We have these for a lot of our access control products to show energy savings. So really started out with single attribute when we're starting out early in these conversations. Then moving on specifically, not just about our products, but also how our manufacturing facilities are functioning and working, and incorporating that with in our sustainability manufacturing practices as we moved along to the next phase. So not just products, but how we're running our facilities. And then through that, we are also able to then build upon that to our first multi-attribute label. So putting all the product specific and manufacturing specific information together. We found that very valuable as folks were reaching out, asking about both. And we wanted to take a more comprehensive approach to sustainability, and also make it easier for our customers to do business with us, because as we look at these attributes, it would tell you how to what credits contributed to LEED, and all this information was in one nice, very user-friendly label. You didn't have to be a sustainability expert. You could look at the label very easily and find your contributions. And then lastly, on the timeline here, you'll see we now have we have 79 active multi-attribute labels, and really pushing our program to have all of our certified energy facts labels transitioned over to certified sustainability facts label, which incorporates all 5 buckets of the common materials framework, as you can see there, denoted in the navy categories, which we'll get into on some of the next slides, making it really easy to see the lead contributions through the contributions highlighted in green. And then, of course, as Tad mentioned, bringing in that social health and equity story to the sustainability conversation with our customers, as a lot of the green building certification programs are asking to show these metrics. But also, this is something that's inherent to our business that we feel very strongly about. And also to show our strong contributions to Design for Freedom. This label was one of the reasons we wanted to move in this direction, is because we feel that it's very important to consider the Design for Freedom movement, which is eradicating forced labor and child labor, modern day slavery in the building materials supply chain. So you'll see there on the bottom, it's social health and equity. There's a metrics for ethical supply chain practices, which Green Circle went through the Design for Freedom requirements and certified that all of this is in our corporate sustainability audit. And this label was collaborated with Design for Freedom as well. So we got the nice sign off from them. And this label has really been a labor of love between Green Circle, Design for Freedom, ASSA ABLOY, Mindful Materials, USGBC. There's been a lot of folks that have had impact and input on this label to make sure that we're meeting the industry need very comprehensively, and we're not just, waving the embodied carbon flag. A lot's going on with embodied carbon right now, and that's great. And we want to make sure that folks have that information, but there are other metrics out here, and sustainability is not a single attribute. We all know that. So we want to make sure stakeholders have all the information to make the best possible decision.
Thank you.
That's an excellent overview there you gave. So.
Yeah, I wanted to jump back as Aaron was discussing, talking about that move from the earlier version of the CEF that we see here in 2016, where we're looking at product specific and manufacturing specific information. I want to just jump back a slide where we're focused on the redesign. We're very excited about this. We just launched our new CSF design in this Q4 of this year. So I wanted to speak more to this, moving away from categorizing the single attribute information as product specific and manufacturing specific, and let the team talk more about the importance of the mindful materials buckets that are obviously, as we said, also aligned with the LEED V5 building disclosure and optimization buckets there. So just wanted to let the team have the floor to comment on that.
Yeah, sure. So you'll see there the 5 buckets of the common materials framework in navy. So circular economy, human health, climate health, ecosystem health, as well as social health and equity. So these are 5 buckets how we categorize impacts and sustainability as proposed by Mindful Materials. So there's been a lot of industry buy-in regarding this, AIA, USGBC, Living Future. So a lot of the industry is aligning around this common framework, common language, to make sure that when we're asking these questions and having these conversations with each other, we're all talking about the same thing, right? And that if you're looking to have specific impacts on a project, not all of the times can you focus fully, but sometimes maybe on this project, one thing is more important than the other. Or if you're able to address all of them, even better. But you can find a very simple way to see, okay, like what certifications go towards climate health, which ones go towards ecosystem health, and really clearly see if organizations are making transparency efforts, are making improvement and optimization efforts, so that you can decide if you want to work with them. And we see that as very empowering for us to tell our sustainability story, but for our customers to feel confident in working with us, our products, our manufacturing facilities. And it is a living label, as we mentioned. You know, hopefully this label does not look like this in 3 years when this label expires. Hopefully it's a lot longer. Hopefully there's a lot more optimizations, because I think we can all agree that transparency is great, and we should all be being as transparent as possible. But really where we need to move the industry is towards optimization and showing improvement. And that's what we're trying to do here at ASSA ABLOY, especially with our products and innovation, which Dan can touch on, but also various other things that we're working on that will contribute to LEED v5 and the push from basic better to best, and really getting towards that market differentiating products to push innovation in manufacturing.
Yeah, I love how you said it's a living label, and when it expires in 3 years, hopefully it won't look the same. I think that's exactly the intent of having this label with our baseline and evaluation, pushing manufacturers to keep moving forward. All right, so now we're going to have our first poll. So you should see that pop up. And the question is, what barriers do you perceive in achieving a multi-attribute label? And if you have more feedback outside of these answers that we've pre-populated, please feel free to put that in the question pane as well.
Like we're getting some good numbers in there.
Yes, thank you for voting. So we see cost being the first item here, data right behind cost, and then internal resources getting a lot of votes as well. So with this question, I want to turn it over to the ASSA ABLOY team again. I think, you know, the label that we presented, it's obviously great that your products have all of these sustainable attributes, but it could look very daunting if you're still working on single attribute certification for your products. So I think it would be very helpful for anyone listening to talk about how you actually went about building this label out, talking about the timeline, talking about employee buy-in. I think Dan, I see him shaking his head, has some comments on this.
Excuse me. Yeah, it's I think Tad mentioned it earlier, you know, some of the plant managers that we've worked with, as they get exposed to this, their whole mindset has to change. So going all the way back to Tad's comment, you know, 2009, we were just cutting our teeth in the sustainability world. So we were looking strictly at single attribute opportunities. So we partnered with Green Circle and developed some of our own EPDs, initially environmental product declarations for a specific product. And so that kind of lays down the foundation, as we talked about, start with a small single attribute and then build upon that. So we're really looking at this as an evolution in what we learn together, and in a never-ending quest for continuous improvement, using that living label, as Aaron mentioned. You know, those processes take a little bit of time, and so don't get overwhelmed by, you know, as much information as we have. That can be daunting, but it takes time for that to happen. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. So part of that is education. So we had, you know, product cross-functional teams that helped work and gather the bill of materials and work with supply chain to get waste and energy and some other things that we do at the manufacturing site, but also with partnering with our supply chain. So you're working with internal and external customers in that process. So it's truly a cross-functional approach to the process. So another part of that is that changes your culture. So you're starting with educating. People didn't even know what an EPD was, and so you had to explain that. So as you're doing that, you're also laying the groundwork for changing your future innovators, and developers. So engineers that are working on an EPD understand what's required to support that. Then that helps them use some of the tools that we have, Sustainable Compass, for example, that measures the different value streams and processes that implement the manufacturing of that product, and looking at raw material through manufacturing through your EPD and your life cycle assessment. All those things can be used to support the label that we're working on. So again, that gives you third-party verification of your environmental product declaration, which then gives Green Circle the ability to say, you've got a EPD that we can use data from to populate that information. So the process itself is getting a bill of material, identifying a product or a family of products that you want to go after, and then what processes are used to support that upstream and downstream. And as Tad said, it's that whole circular process. So looking at the entire value stream and conversion process, how do we capture what we're doing to optimize and reduce our carbon footprint, for example, or improving the energy efficiency of a design. So by having those materials and having that information, the team can identify target areas. So one of the things we've done is take a product that started out in its original intent, the information that we had through these labels and through doing this work, identified areas where we could go after a high carbon content contributing material, for example, and look for ways that we could re-engineer or repurpose that design so that it would be more sustainable and not affect fit, form, or function, or structural performance, physical performance. So it's just a good process all the way around. I know, again, bringing in your customers can be sometimes challenging, including supply chain. So customers' needs versus a supply chain need can get interesting. But again, we're trying to be transparent, and Green Circle did a great job stepping beside us and helping us contact those suppliers. So, for example, you've got a large material supplier that has a safety data sheet that doesn't have all of the ingredients fully disclosed. They have some proprietary information. We're able to get through NDAs and some other things, get that information so it makes it completely transparent. So again, start small, get that single attribute that lays the foundation to then go after more and more multi-attributes. So you're looking at it from a product perspective initially, then you start looking at your cultural perspective and the human side of it. So then you can take an HPD, a health product declaration, incorporate those data points into that system. And again, it's a living document, so it never ends. So it's a good thing. And customers value it. I mean, we have customers, and I'm sure Marty can talk to this from an architectural side on the front end. They're going to design a building that wants to be LEED Platinum, for example. So then they're looking for ways to bring in materials besides just carpet and other things. You know, there's a lot of materials that don't typically get considered. Doors are one of those. So by having this, it's raised the visibility in our market and in our industry to give us a competitive advantage, because before we were kind of overlooked or the last thing that they think about when they're building a building. So again, that's helped move us up in the food chain and give us ability to leverage what we've done with Green Circle and the third-party verification. As Tad mentioned earlier, Gensler is huge, and so having these labels and this validation of our customers' confidence just definitely helps us get a competitive advantage and grows our business and opportunity in the market. So I know it's a lot, but if you have questions, we'll take them anytime. But again, just be transparent. If you run, you know, it's not going to be perfect when you start out, but don't be afraid to fail. Just go and do it first, and then you'll tweak and get better. It never ends. You just continue to build on your prior successes. So that's the key.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
I know you kind of threw that question to Marty, and I think that's perfect. Talking about how this label can help meet customer and consumer demand.
Yeah, jumping ahead a little bit on when I was going to speak, but you know, I'm more the mechanics of how we get these products on the project. We've got the awareness of the owner, of the architect. We've got the products. We've got the labels. Now the question is, how do we get those products on the job? And sure, the ones that we specified are the ones that actually make it to the job. And that's where I come in maybe I'll just throw this out now. So I'm architects. I call on architects. We have a project that we want to talk about. It's a lead project in a certain level, and that triggers the machine, our discovery machine, to start asking questions about that. Start discussing building envelope, discussing electronic access control, all things that fall into the energy category, and what do they really want to see, and a lot of times what can the budget withstand to achieve their goals for lead. So that's where I come in at that point. I don't know if you want me to continue to go here, Aaron, or wait till a little further in the presentation.
Yeah, that's fine, Marty.
Okay. So this is not long, so don't panic. We basically assist the architect with specifications, and the sooner we can get in the cycle in schematic design or design development and start talking about specific door and hardware products, Division 8, the better we're able to support their sustainability goals with the project. So we're just everything around the opening. It's like I said, it's a discovery process. We use the ASSA ABLOY portal called Mindful Materials. That's a very great resource to you without us or with us, because we use it as well. But we're actually the experts on our own products, and we can be helpful in that regard. When prepared, so now we've had the discussion. We've agreed, here's some great candidates for this project. It's going to support the lead goal. What next? Well, we write a specification, and for those who aren't familiar, it's 87-100 or Division 8 or Division 28, which is access control. And there are two major parts to a specification, something called the 3-part section. And then, as you all, anybody who touches doors and hardware knows, there's hardware sets that follow. So in the 3-part section, which is the words, and where we identify manufacturers, where we identify product numbers, product series, product brands, we then are able to write into that products that are going to optimize transparency, that are going to give us the labels that we want. And we will also add in specific language in the right paragraphs that require the contract door hardware supplier to provide this transparency documentation as a part of their contract. We are there at every step of the way. So now we've got a spec out on the street. Contract hardware distributor has bid on it and maybe won the project. Then it's time for submittals, and this is how we assure or control the fact that the products make it to the project. We are happy and do submittal reviews with architects. This is a part of our architectural spec writing service. We can assure that the right products that were specified are being proposed to be delivered. And then we also offer a white glove service to help with the heavy lift of documentation for the products. We can help with the architect and with the contract hardware distributor. So we provide that submittal assistance as well. So we like to think we're pretty well a mature effort in going after this. We've been at it a long time. We're probably the big gorilla in the door and hardware market as far as sustainable programs and support. But this is just my little piece of it. Writing specifications and getting product to the job. This is how we can be helpful in this regard.
Okay, one thing I wanted to add to this, Marty, that's great information. You know, we have a sister company, Sustainable Solutions Corporation, that started in 2001, and we were mainly focused on green building, and we still do a ton of that work. And we learned over the years that if you really want to make a sustainable building, you can't just put your information on what you're expecting in Division 1 sustainable design requirements. You got to put it into every division. and you write in every division what you want. That way the subs are going to see it, the GC is going to make sure it happens. Everybody can, make sure that these things are being met. And over the years, Green Circle, we've trained many architects about the best way to get those specs together. So it's great to hear, Marty, that you're actually doing that work. But and all the listeners of this, I'm going to strongly encourage you to make sure your specs are written in a way that it drives, what you really want to achieve, what the owner wants to achieve, and get those things done. And in this world we're in right now, everybody's trying to figure out, okay, we want to be sustainable, but how we don't want to see things getting value engineered out. And we're seeing now, even with the great advent of where we're going with whole building LCA, that many of these softwares now allow people to grab EPDs from a specific product that can be built into the project, which means if someone tries to not do that product, it's going to affect points within the lead system, not just for all the other things you're trying to achieve credits in, but really it could affect the overall project. And I will also say that what Dan said about the total evolution, ASSA ABLOY has an incredible program for, they call it their sustainability compass, and that is driving innovation and it's driving optimization, and that's our label that we've developed is going to drive that, which is not only going to meet LEED v5, but it also contributes to LEED v4 4.1. Like everything we're showing you today is not just a v5 thing. This can apply to any LEED project. It also can apply to many other projects. If you're working in National Green Building Standard or Green Globes, or whatever you're working in, BREEAM even. A lot of these attributes are critical for all standards that you'd focus on. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents, having grown up, for 23 years now in this business, of how we evolved our buildings over time to make sure we were going to maximize energy efficiency, maximize LEED credits, et cetera, and points. So the specs are the master here of how you do that.
Thank you for that background. I wanted to ask Aaron, I know you get a lot of consumer requests, and I wanted to understand better how this label helps in answering those requests.
Yeah, sure. So far this year, 2024, we've had 300 requests, lots of different questions coming in, formed in many different ways, sometimes looking for transparency documents specifically, sometimes looking for one attribute. So it comes in all shapes and sizes, all different flavors of green building certification programs. But what's really helpful with this is it checks all the boxes for any request pretty much. Which is great. We are earlier in our infancy of transitioning most of our products over to CSFs. We do have 79 multi-attribute labels, but making sure we get the CSFs incorporated throughout the product portfolio. But even early in our journey here, with this transition, we've had very deliberate customers reach out specifically for our certified sustainability facts label. I think the first time it happened, I actually jumped out of my seat and I called my manager, Amy Masanti, and I said, Amy, it's happening. So it's really great when you see that industry adoption, and it just gives such validation that we're doing the right thing, that others care about the work that we're doing and that they're doing. So it's very meaningful, and it really helps folks move through their project much faster. We want to be easy to do business with. We want to be a collaborator and partner. And if you're coming up against the wall when you're working with us, that's not really what we want. So the CSF certainly provide the transparency, make project work a lot easier, and really show that commitment to a holistic sustainability story. So that we can help you no matter what your goals are, whether it be the full label, multi-attribute, whether it be a certain certification, or whether you just really want to focus in on, say red list free products, or maybe you want to focus on indoor air quality. Whatever it is, we can easily get you that information, and it's all wrapped in a nice bow with the CSF. So we found it very valuable in providing information to our customers, especially when we have so many requests each and every day, which we're happy to hear from folks, but we want to make sure we're helping them as soon as possible.
And Aaron, to build on that, again, our customer service team, we're a large organization, but they'll get weekly requests, as you mentioned, and then I'll get that fed back to me. And in the past, prior to having these labels, it was a little bit of a process to try and get exactly what they were asking for. Now it's so convenient. To your point, it's all in one nice package that you can send them that. But the beautiful thing too is we can send a link to the Green Circle certification. So 105 products that are certified, they don't have to search for it. We can send it directly to it. So it makes that whole process easier. And anytime we can make that process smoother and seamless for the customer, they're going to come back to you again. So again, it builds that relationship, and you're helping to change the culture internally and externally by doing that. So again, making it easier for them to find what they're needing will help Marty get more business for having to write it into Division 8. So that's we want to spec it all the way around, so get that hook in there. But again, it's all about continuing to improve. How do we make that easier? We're looking at even implementing QR codes that can have that on our packaging, so that somebody can just scan that, and then they're not even at the job site if they need that. Put it on your website. So again, all those things can help. It's just a small change, but that is so powerful, the downstream and upstream effect. So.
Yeah, I think that's great. I feel like the element of ease is kind of woven into everything we've been talking about. When we're talking about how to read the label, anyone could read it. And I think that's become even easier with the adoption of the different categorization on the label as well. I also wanted to ask the ASSA ABLOY team, we've been talking a lot about how you're using this with customer requests and meeting consumer demand, but I know that this can also be a really helpful tool when you're discussing sustainability internally. So I wanted to understand more about how ASSA ABLOY is using that with your internal teams.
Sure, yeah.
Go ahead, Erin.
Oh, go ahead, Dan.
No, I was just going to give a real quick little scenario. As I mentioned earlier, Tad's team has done a great job with us in both Green Circle and Sustainable Solutions. Both companies have supported our Trio E, for example, as an energy efficient steel strip and door. And in its infancy, we just had a single attribute label. Then we were able to do EPDs, HPDs, declare labels, and we Green Circle certified, UL environmental. All those things help build the legacy of that. So it gives the customer confidence. By doing that, our team learned that process. So we took, as Tad mentioned, we have a sustainable compass that looks at certain key metrics within the supply chain, within our manufacturing process, and within the end user. So you're looking at what it takes to harvest that material, and then what it takes to convert it in our process, and then how it is used, and then what's the end of life. So it's that whole circular vision of it. So as I said earlier, our customer is understanding that more. Internally, our customers, by having young engineers go through this process, you're laying the groundwork to teach them to start not only looking at when they're developing a new innovative product, we're not just looking at the physical performance, we're also looking at that and measuring the sustainability impact of using this material versus another material. So for example, if we can take an existing design that's been around for 60 years and convert maybe the core material, one of the elements or ingredients within that gives us the same physical performance, but maybe using a bio-based, for example, material that can give you lead credits and help the environment, not impact our footprint carbon-wise. So again, if I can reduce my carbon footprint, reduce the amount of energy that's used to convert that into an actual product, it's a win-win. So again, having the team understand that, having those tools and the third-party data that verifies what you've done is correct, then you're able to narrow down, as Tad mentioned, we've got that compass. It will point us to saying, here's one area we can focus on this particular material and put our development efforts into converting that to a more sustainable solution. Then we end up developing it, testing it, and running it through that process. And the beautiful thing about that is we have an annual revisit of our process that's third-party verified. So again, Green Circle's coming in once we've made that change. And as Katie mentioned before, we're looking to optimize. Not only do we want to just get it there, can I optimize that material? So are there areas where we can take the existing design, have the energy efficiency that's been certified, test that again with the new improvements, and have it third-party verified for the sustainability attributes, as well as its physical performance in an actual operable condition. So again, it's that whole life cycle assessment, operational optimization, and through materials all the way through design, fit, form, and function. So it's just a good process. And again, having experts, again, we can't understand all this. It's a very complex environment we work in. So just learning how to make doors and frames is a challenge in itself, but then to try and look at that from that perspective of how can I do that and meet my customer's need physically and also structurally and sustainably. So again, it's a trifecta. If we get that, we win. So, and it's a good process. So Aaron, go ahead. I'm sorry. I get excited.
Oh, no worries. You can tell we're very passionate and excited here at ASSA ABLOY about sustainability. Yeah, I mean, we incorporate these efforts in this label throughout our value stream and all stakeholder groups, from training of our sales team so they can talk the talk and understand what customers are asking for. There's a lot of terms in sustainability, and there's different meanings depending on exactly what you're talking about. So making sure we're having that common language, that conversation through the 5 buckets of the common materials framework, that we can get around that language so that we make sure we know what we're talking about regarding impacts. Also inclusivity, this label brings together so many parts of the business, whether it be the manufacturing folks, the product managers, our supply chain. We work with our supply chain team on a weekly basis on efforts for supply chain transparency and on Design for Freedom projects. So it brings those folks into the conversation as well. But what I love about it is that it also provides confidence and empowerment, because, okay, we've got this baseline, we've gathered this information, but we don't want to stay stagnant. We want to constantly improve. And this gives everyone, no matter what your role is in sustainability, as a manufacturer, to say, okay, well, here's where we are, but I know we can do better. And that's what we're always striving for. So to empower our teammates and our suppliers really to take these challenges head on and show us improvements, and always strive for, how we're going to make this label better.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It would be really interesting to see how many different teams and employees that you've touched by creating all of these labels.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, the conference I spoke at yesterday, the theme I heard, or on Monday when I spoke, I heard this theme that, supply chain transparency is the next thing, right? And the beautiful thing about this with, the basically social health and equity aspect of this, that is absolutely the beginning of how ASSA ABLOY is working on that supply chain transparency. Number one, they're looking at all, what's going on human rights in their supply chain, what's happening there. But this also opens the door with your suppliers to have the conversation about, when you start looking at the impacts of your EPD, and you do that LCA, and you can say, hey, these materials are really driving the impacts. What can we do collaboratively to come up with a solution that we can reduce these together, whether it's your supplier making changes to their own operations to reduce their scope 1 and 2, or they're going to come to you and say, hey, we have the new alternative that you can use for the core of the door that is, definitely going to give you the same performance, but it's not going to have all the impacts, the chemical ingredients, etc. So we definitely think that this is a great way to have that conversation, and everything that goes behind the label. The label is a very nice, quick way to understand that what's being done and what's third-party certified, but there's a lot of information behind that. And that's all goes through a very detailed review by the Green Circle team to make sure that it meets all of our requirements for our standard and everything. So, it is definitely key here that it's a beautiful little label that you can see, but there's a lot of work behind it. And that is what gives the users of that label then the assurance that they can be confident that claim is true, and there's no greenwashing going on. So I just wanted to reinforce how this is like, you can see this label works internally, but it also is going to flow down into your suppliers over time as well.
Yeah, and that's a great point. It gives us a lot of credibility with our customers. if you're working with a manufacturer that doesn't know what a multi-attribute label is in 2024, you're working with the wrong people. So good to ask these questions, make sure that the claims are third-party verified, and working with professionals like Green Circle that have been through this many, many times, know exactly what they're doing, looking for the correct attributes, and know the right players at the manufacturers to be speaking with to make sure we can get this data in a digestible way, right? That's really what our goal is, to have customers use this and to be out in the world on projects. So it makes it a layup for us.
On that topic of credibility assurance, I did want to pose a question to Tad, talking about how the label is perceived by regulators, how the CSF can help our clients respond to regulations, maybe talk a little bit about ESG reporting.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely elements in this label that look at your operations. And, one thing we're doing, if we're verifying, say, we have a certification, sustainable energy practices, where we're looking at companies that are using renewable electricity or carbon-free electricity to reduce their scope 2. There is verification and assurance. In fact, very soon, 2025, we're rolling.
Oh, we locked up.
Out our third party.
Hi, Tad.
You're back, I think.
Hello.
We can
There
hear
we
you.
go.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. We just actually lost power here in our office, so everything went black. So I just wanted to say that, that third-party assurance we're rolling out for scope 1 and 2 is going to be launched in 2025 to meet a lot of these regulatory requirements around ESG. And I can tell you, we've had a lot of interaction with the federal government here in the US in terms of getting input from EPA for their Eco Logo program. When we got the certified environmental facts label recognized by EPA, we had to do that in a manner that basically went through quite a detailed review, got a lot of feedback on that. And, we routinely are providing information and communications to different government agencies around this. In fact, we recently got interviewed by the state of Oregon around their extended producer responsibility requirements that they're going to be rolling out in regulations. And they were asking us our opinion and how this can drive things and what was the best way to third party assure those claims and things like that. So a lot of these things we're doing definitely have that connection to the federal government and regulatory agencies. So hopefully you're still there. My computer's a little weird after losing power. So sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah, we can hear you. We see the lights came back on. So we've been talking about the label as a tool for communication, whether it be internally with your customers, responding to regulation in the marketplace. So it's time for our second poll, which is also about communication. So we're curious, if you don't currently utilize multi-attribute certification, how are you communicating sustainability data to your stakeholders? So we have company website, sustainability report, third-party data hub, or lead product brochure. And again, if you have additional comments, please feel free to put that in the question pane as well. Okay, our results are in. So most of you are utilizing your company website or a sustainability report. 14% answered third-party data hub, and we got no answers for lead product brochure. Although I'm sure some of these, your sustainability report lives on your company website. All right, so I wanted to bring it back to the ASSA ABLOY team, back to some of what Marty has already commented on, but talking about how this is specifically used with architects and designers, speaking more to, multi-attribute information within specifications, how this can help support your customers' goals, where you're using it in the sales process. And then also, is this something you're utilizing on your own website? Is this something you're utilizing at conferences and trade shows? Just asking how you're using the label that you have.
Yeah, I can jump in here.
Sorry, go ahead, Erin.
Yeah, so on the specification side, really making sure there's some spec stickiness. So referencing our various transparency types and specifications, giving preference to those that do. So obviously incorporating the CSF into there so that we make sure it stays in there and that we get products that have this information. And also an important part of that is in the value engineering process. So as Marty mentioned, when you're getting those submittals back, making sure, if we can't have option 1, maybe we can have option 2, and there'll still be some sustainability attributes for that project. So really reinforcing what matters on the project and making sure through the CSF that those requirements are met based on the customer's project. And then just like in our conversations on projects when we're talking with our stakeholders, showing what impacts our products have, and showing where we've made optimizations, whether it be LCA, material ingredients. So it's really much easier to have those conversations when we're all on board regarding the impacts and what we're talking about. And then also obviously we've got a lot of adoption through our building materials sustainability industry through our product databases and portals. The CSF is part of the incorporated into the mindful materials portal, so you'll see it there. You'll see it on the Green Circle certified database. But also we're showing this information at conferences, whether it be Design for Freedom, Living Future, Mindful Materials Forum, Green Build, and we've got a lot of feedback about it. Our customers love it, owners love it. Anyone that we've worked with said it's a really great way to move forward with our information so that customers can make the best possible decision. Yeah, so we found it very valuable throughout the sales process and with all of our internal stakeholders as well.
Did you have a comment, Marty?
No, I did not. You covered it well, Erin. I think again, I'm working with architects on specs, and I think once the awareness and the desire is there, it's get on it early in the specifications. And as Tad said, it crosses all divisions. It starts with section 1 and goes through 8, goes through 28. You touch on it in every area. But the sooner, as far as doors and hardware, we can start talking about products and alternatives and value, the better off. And then going to the end run, which Erin, I think this is almost the most important part of the whole process, is to review those submittals, police those submittals, make sure that what we specify, what the end user wants, what the architect wants, is actually what's being proposed. And that's where our experienced eye can come in handy as a support to the architectural design team looking at submittals. So that's all I'll say on the subject.
Thank you. I did want to bring it back to something, Erin, that you had mentioned earlier in the conversation. I want to ask, how has the conversation in sustainability evolved past the topic of carbon, and how does this label help you to address that?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of buzz about embodied carbon. That's very important, obviously, but we do want to show a more holistic approach to sustainability and talk about all impacts, right? Because what we don't want to do is plan for one specific attribute and then have a regrettable substitution through impact in another area. So great, it has low embodied carbon, but it's made of terrible materials and it's going to last a year. that's not what we want to be at, right? We want to consider everything from environmental impacts, health impacts, resiliency. How long is this product going to last? Do you want to buy the one that's going to last 2 years, or you want to have it in there for 15 years so when you're ready to retire, it's still going and you don't have to deal with this again? So there's just so many things to consider, even circularity. What's going to happen to this product after the end of its useful life? Can we recycle it or not? Will the manufacturer take it back? So it's really not just, we get a lot of questions, folks asking us, what's the most sustainable product you have? And it's like, well, how much time do you have? What do you consider sustainable? Are we talking about the same thing? What metrics are you using? It's not a layup question. So this helps us have those conversations and make sure that we're addressing each and every requirement, and that the customers are happy basically with what they're getting, and that they're not like, well, why didn't you tell me about this impact? This is so important to us for this project. So yeah, it really lets us to make sure that we're all on the same page and talking the same language. So obviously that's very valuable to make sure all stakeholders are happy at the end of the day with how the project turns out.
Thank you. I do see that we're at time, a minute over. So I do want to wrap this up. We did get some questions, so if you sent one over, we will respond to you via email. Like I said at the beginning, a recording will be sent out, and we will share that with you within the next 24 hours. So I just want to thank all of the attendees today, and definitely want to thank all of the amazing panelists from ASSA ABLOY for having this conversation with Tad and myself. So thank you all.